Hey guys, Andy back here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you some pretty awesome 40k content. I am going to be adding another new unit to my Death Korps of Krieg army in this video. Finally, my Death Korps of Krieg are going to get some air support in the form of a Thunderbolt. But this Thunderbolt is not from Games Workshop, it is actually a sculpt from Station Forge, a 3D printing miniature company. And I know what you're thinking, I don't own a 3D printer, so this does not help me. However, Station Forge is not the sponsor of today's video. The sponsor of today's video is actually Proxy Wars, a company that will print these beautiful miniatures out for you and send them to your house at a very reasonable price. This Thunderbolt, if you were to buy it off their website, costs you €32, which I think is an epic price for such a beautiful miniature. I will talk a little bit more about Proxy Wars later in the video and let you know what kind of cool offers they have for you guys here today. So without further ado, let's get into the video. And here is the beautiful sculpt itself. As you can see, it's a really nice manageable size. I think it suits the size of a 40k gaming table a little bit better than the Forgeable one, to be honest. The Forgeable one has a tendency to crash itself into buildings constantly, or just get in the way. So I quite like this one. I think it's truer to the size of a fighter plane actually would be. As you can see, it comes with options for weapons, including canopy, whether you want it to be a completely enclosed canopy where you don't have to paint the interior, or whether you do want to paint the interior. So they give you the struts where you can add in your own kind of glass, and then they give you a beautiful pilot miniature. They also, as an extra nice thing, which is something I love with Station Forge when they do their miniatures, is they give you a pilot on foot as well. So if you want to do a cool scenario where your plane gets shot down and you have this awesome pilot trying to escape the battlefield, you get them. I made a custom base to make it fit in with the rest of my Death Korps of Krieg army, normal duck boards and old trench works. And I think when I painted the pilot, I'm going to glue him in there just so he stays with it as one solid piece. I got the whole model sprayed up black. And then, which is unusual for me, I'm going to be using the airbrush now to get some base colors on this thing. As this is how I normally paint my Death Korps of Krieg tanks. So I'm going to follow through and make them match. Before I get into that, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to do these crazy videos. So a huge thank you to them. If you're interested in joining my Patreon, benefits include things like a private Discord server and an extra video every single week. So that's 52 extra videos a year, which I think is a pretty good deal. So if that is something that interests you, there'll be links to that below. I started off with Mechanicus Standard Grey, and I airbrushed this over most of the hull. I try and leave all of the kind of shadowed areas or lines between panels a little bit darker, just to give me some really nice contrast on the miniature. And when I do that, it looks basically like that. If you notice in the bottom right corner of the video there, I nearly knocked over my airbrush all over the place. So let's just pretend that didn't happen. After that, I move over to the Fang, which is the color of my Death Korps tanks. And as you can see, I'm being much slower and much more precise with the airbrushing here. I'm using good finger control for pressure and yeah, basically painting in the middle of all the panels, leaving a bit more of that shadow around the outside, just to really set the model off. I've said this phrase a bunch, but for anyone who's kind of first time watching, I think some of the most important things you can do while you paint a miniature like this is to endeavor to make it not look like a toy. You don't want your Warhammer models looking like toys, even if they are. You want them looking something a little bit more special than that. And I think the best way to do it is adding kind of depth and texture in the paint. And I think techniques like this often get overlooked, but they definitely add a lot to the miniature. From here, we're going to move over to Matte Black from the Army Painter. And I'm going to, once again, very carefully airbrush this on all the parts of the miniature that I want black. So I went for obviously the engines themselves. I will come in with a bit of silver later on, but I'm going to basically re-black those out. And then those kind of air vents or exhaust manifold kind of things on top of the engines, those slits you can see right there, I decided to black those out as well. Proxy War is an absolutely fantastic miniature provider. They will actually have a Kickstarter coming out soon with some other special miniatures that I'm very lucky to get my hands on and show them to you guys in a video, hopefully next month. They're one of those beautiful companies that provides the option for you to have 3D printed miniatures if you do not have access to a 3D printer. They have access to so many other companies' kind of miniature ranges, like the Station Forge stuff, and get them printed out and sent to you guys at quite a reasonable price. They're a company that I was very excited when they approached me for a sponsorship, and I of course jumped on the bandwagon, and hopefully we'll be sharing you guys their stuff quite a lot in the next couple of months. One of the cool things they do is they actually have a Patreon. So if you go down into the bottom, there will be descriptions on their Patreon as well. It is a kind of 550 euro subscription. And the benefits are actually pretty cool. One of them is you get 30% off your first order every single month, and you get 2 free miniatures thrown into every order as well, which I just think is a phenomenal deal. So I thoroughly do recommend you guys go down into the description below, click on the link, and have a look at some of the awesome miniatures they have available, whether it's for fantasy, science fiction, Lord of the Rings. They literally have a huge catalog of miniatures, and I think they're worth your time. Okay, I've now added all of the cool decals that I wanted to the plane before I start doing any of the weathering. So the first thing I like to do when it comes to weathering is generally it's quite a light dry brush all over a tank or a plane or any kind of vehicle. If you look at these kinds of vehicles in battle or in war, they're constantly getting scuffed and chipped and rubbed, guys climbing up the wings to get into the plane, or, you know, all those kind of things. There's not going to be a pristine paint job on any of them. So a light dry brush across all the holes just once again adds that texture and that kind of depth to the color of the paint. I really like it. After that, it's time to add a little bit of chipping damage. I'm going to go to my trusty technique, which is to use a sponge and kind of like a stipple / dabbling technique. So I'm just going to use a bit of black and a bit of silver paint. I'm going to start with the black, stipple that on a little bit heavier. Not heavy, just heavier than the silver. You only want to have a few flecks of black kind of showing up across the hull. There is obviously more parts available for this miniature. I'm not going to be showing you guys how to paint the pilots. I'm actually going to be working them up on my Twitch stream later on tonight. If you didn't also know that, I do stream on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday between 8 and 10 p.m. Irish time. You're more than welcome to come along and get some painting and some chats done with me. It's a very relaxed atmosphere. So I'm going to be painting the sitting pilot and the standing pilot in my traditional Death Korps of Krieg scheme later tonight. I'm excited to get that done. Therefore, I can have the exposed canopy and show the beautiful interior of the plane off. This is the stage where usually people give out to me in the comment section and say this is not how it should be. You ruined it, and obviously you can stop before this stage, but I like adding some weathering powder to all of my Death Korps of Krieg vehicles. I know it makes a lot more sense on tanks and artillery pieces that are literally on the ground, but I like adding it into the plane as well, just so that all those colors kind of tie together. And it is not a crazy thing. These planes are kind of low flying dog fighters. They're going to be going through ash and clouds and debris, even when they're stationed on their landing platform, or they're going to be a bit dirty. I know maybe not to this extent, but before I add this stage, I always think that the tanks look a little bit too blue. And I think this really does add a little something to it. If you've ever seen how I do it on my tanks, it looks even better there. But this is my finished Grimguard / Death Korps of Krieg / Station Forge / Proxy War plane. Really happy with how it turned out. Like I said, there's a few more details to get done. Those beautiful pilots and the bombs that go into the wing that I'll finish and glue on later tonight. Here's a few high definition pictures of the finished result. Like I said, I'm absolutely delighted with how it turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this slightly different video, and I hope you're excited for me to bring you more 3D printed content in the very near future. Okay guys, and there we have it, one Thunderbolt ready to roll out for my Death Korps of Krieg army. A huge thank you to Proxy Wars for sponsoring today's videos. I hope you guys will go down and check out the link below and check out the amazing catalog of miniatures that they have available to you at quite an affordable price, and get yourself a few nice goodies there. Remember that these guys are offering a special promotion that if you sign up to their Patreon, which is only about €5, you get 30% off your first order every single month, plus 2 free miniatures get thrown in with each of those orders, which I think is a pretty sweet deal for €5, $5.50. All right guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments below and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. Thank you guys so much for sticking around at the end. I'll see you in the next video.